Hi, Scrolling Along with Susan. In today's project with my scroll saw, I'll be cutting out a deer, a fretwork deer, and I'll be using 1/2-inch maple. I have this gorgeous piece of very figured maple that I think it'll be really pretty. And I have a local sawmill that I have a good business relationship with, and he recently gave me some cut-off pieces for free, and so I decided, hey, I'm going to make him something as a thank you. So this fretwork piece that I'll be doing today is a more advanced piece. Now, fretworking, in case you don't know, is when you're drilling pilot holes in the wood and you will be feeding the blade in the holes to cut on the inside part of the wood. And these are going to be very narrow cuttings for me. If you are new to fretworking, choose one that has very large cuttings on the inside for your practice before you try something advanced. For this pattern, I'm using a project out of the Woodworker's Pattern Book by Jacob and Wayne Fowler. I'm going to be cutting out the Majestic Buck, but I've decided to use a little bit different outside perimeter here to make it look a little bit more like a piece of wood. I've sanded everything down. I've put some contact paper, clear contact paper down on this, then glued the pattern to it. Now I'm ready to drill all of my pilot holes. Always use backer boards for this so that you don't have tear out on the other side. You can use a hand drill for this. Things are so much more accurate at a 90-degree angle if you use a drill press. I always sand the back of my board once I have drilled all my pilot holes. There's no little bumps coming up from the bottom, and it's a nice smooth cut. Always start every project with a brand new blade, and my blade of choice is a Pegasus MG T5R. For 1/2 inch thick wood, I would imagine 3 or 5 would be the appropriate blade to use. I suppose you could get away with a 7, but 3 or 5 would be easier. Normally I would suggest you start in the middle of this project, but since there's a little extra on the corners, I'm going to go ahead and cut out the outside part of this so I have more maneuverability. The speed of your scroll saw is not as important as how you control the piece. You can go as fast as you want with the speed, or you don't want to go too slow on this depending on what the thickness of your wood is. I set mine at about 75–80% speed because you're going to control it with your hands. I've got the perimeter cut. Now it's time to start in the middle of my piece. And you want to cut the most difficult parts first. And that's going to be around the eye, because if you mess that up, then you might as well start over again. I do want to point out that this is a much more advanced pattern with very precision cuts. If you are new to cutting like this, I suggest you go with a lot larger cuts to begin with until you have the practice. Then you can do something small like this. Whether you are a beginner or an advanced, there are different ways to approach a cut. And this has got 4 sharp points on it. So I will be starting and stopping. So I'm going to cut this point. I'm going to back up, and because that's my pilot hole, it's quite large, I can turn my piece easily, line it up, go in this direction, cut down to that point. I'm going to back up, and I'm going to come in at an angle to get this point, back and back up, and then I'm going to go about in the middle, turn, and go to my point. That way I have a lot bigger area to turn in, and then I will come back here and come to that point. So basically you do not have to keep cutting through the whole thing, and you can make more mistakes that way. This way you can keep stopping and starting and stopping and starting. well to be a top feeder or a bottom feeder of your blade. I have tried to be a top feeder, which means you take your blade, it's up here secure, and you place it down into your piece. But I've never been able to perfect that. I always bend my blades. So I actually have to lean over to see the hole that I want to get to, and then pull it from the bottom up. So I'm a bottom feeder. It doesn't really matter which way you want to do it, whatever you're comfortable with. I'm going to keep trying to be a top feeder because this is a good table for that. I just can't seem to do it yet. And after the crucial part is done, it really doesn't matter which of these holes you work with. Most people go from the middle out, and basically I just find an empty hole on the other side and put my blade through it once I get done with the eyes. I'm down to cutting my last piece out, and then we'll take a look at it. The great unveiling. Let's see what it looks like. Now I put, if you remember, just a solid piece of contact paper underneath, so it should peel off pretty easily. Ooh, I like that. I'm just using mineral spirits here to soak the paper that was not covered by the contact paper, and let it sit for a minute or two, and it should come right off. Now comes the work of lightly sanding both sides to get rid of all the fuzzies. And I don't know if you can see this, but there are small pieces of sawdust that are in these veining cracks. I'm just taking a piece of regular paper and kind of working it in to get rid of those. There are different methods in getting rid of little fuzzies on the back. I cut off a little piece of 220 grit sandpaper and remove the fuzzies by hand. I was going to seal this piece with mineral oil, and then I thought, well, if he displays it in his shop, there's going to be a lot of sawdust around, and I thought polyurethane would be the best choice here. So I'm using just a little paint brush to get into all the cracks, using polyurethane on that first, and then using it on the rest of the piece. I've got a real simple picture hanging hardware piece here that I'm going to be attaching to the back by centering it, and then I have a 3/8 inch screw. I'm going to drill a pilot hole first. Well, here is my finished piece. All I have left to do is one last sanding and one more coat of polyurethane. But I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I wasn't really sure because I did my own freehand work on the outside of this, but I think it turned out pretty well. As a matter of fact, the back, it was a hard decision to make whether to use the back or the front, but I ultimately went with the front part of it. I hope you'll give it a try for a little bit of fretwork of your own. And again, thank you very much for watching. Till next time.